Well, hello everybody. I'm Jeanette and you're visiting the Neal's Homestead. Winter's a great time to can. Winter's a great time to clean your freezer out and can up a bunch of that meat that you've had stored in there for a while, because it's not a bad thing to heat up the house in the wintertime. In the summer you have to counteract the heat by either pulling it out, air conditioning, whatever it takes to get your house cooled off while you're doing all that canning. But winter, it's good because you get double use out of that heat that you're creating. Well, I got a good deal on some chicken nuggets. There was a lot of them. And they were not the best eating chicken nuggets because they got kind of hard when you heated them up, and they were a little too hard to chew up. So I tested them out in a few different ways by adding them to soup, and I soaked them up a little bit and made a sweet and sour chicken out of them. So then I got the bright idea that I'm just going to can them, and then I can have them ready at any time to use up whenever I want to make something quick. Now, I'll admit in the jar they don't look all that tasty, but we're not going to care about that. We're going to care about what the taste is and the fact that we're putting food on the shelf for long-term stability. I've already done up several jars here, and I'm going to have probably at least 7 more. So let me put those away and I'll get set up to can a new batch. I'm going to be canning it on my wood cook stove out in our summer kitchen. So I need to get a pretty hot fire started in there. I'm going to be canning it on my wood cook stove out in our summer kitchen. I've already got a fire going in there because this is how we heat our house right now. But I want a little hotter fire to get things boiling up pretty good in my pressure canner. So I need to add some firewood. I need some boiling water, so I'm putting that kettle on in here because I can get it to boil faster. And then what else I need is 7 jars, which I washed up in my dishwasher yesterday. I have 7 flats and 7 rings that are going to hold the flats down. And then my chicken is in these bags. It's frozen, and I've done it, this is the 3rd batch I've done of this stuff, so I know that it takes about 6 bags to make my 7 quarts worth of chicken. What I'm going to do is very simple. I'm just going to cut the top off of these, and then into each jar I'm going to put as much chicken as I can. It's frozen, so it's hard and might not fit together very well, so I'm going to arrange them so that they're down in there pretty good. So this isn't necessarily the weirdest thing I've ever canned. My mother-in-law, who was much older than me, was born in 1910, and she lived her young womanhood during the Depression, during hard times whenever it was difficult to feed families. And she used to talk about how she would can up everything in sight. And so I learned that she would can up like the wild greens, dock, and stuff like that. She would can that up. Just like we would can spinach now. To us it seems like that seems pretty weird. So I actually tried it before. I'll have to admit we ate some of it, but we didn't eat all of it. I ended up throwing some of it away after it sat on the shelf for a few years. The other weird thing that I canned, doesn't sound so weird, but after you canned it, it was weird, was cabbage. Canned cabbage is just plain gross. It just turns into a cabbage flavored jar of mush. And so I'm never doing that again, and I'm never canning turnips again because they're kind of the same way. They just, not good, not good. So turnips store pretty well if you do it right over the winter time. So I think there's not really that much of a need to can turnips. So let me get these done and we'll go to the next step. I got them pretty well loaded. I did end up with 2 good-sized chunks. When I put the water in, I might be able to make a little bit more room in there. They're pretty packed. I shook them down and tried to get them in there the best I can. But if I have 2 pieces left over, it's not that big of a deal. Well, I finally got that silly kettle to boil. You know how it is. It takes forever. And I'm just going to pour it into each, whoops, dripping a little bit. I'm not holding it quite right. Pour it into each jar carefully, not too fast. And I'm aiming for not all the way full, because my last, both of them, I filled it up to like within an inch, and they kind of spewed out a little bit, so I want to have less this time. Well, not quite enough. I've got 2.5 more jars, so I have to heat up some more water. While I'm heating up the water for the others, it's fine for these to sit here and equalize from the hot water that I've put in to the frozen chicken nuggets and thaw them out a little bit. I think that's probably a good idea in the long run. While the water's boiling for those others, I'll go ahead and get these ready. And what I need to do first is take a clean cloth and wipe the top edge of the jar. That's, well, to make sure that I don't have anything on that edge that would stop the lid from sealing down, but also give myself another chance to make sure there's not a chip in the lid or some kind of malfunction there that's going to cause it to not seal down. Now I'll lay flat on top and simply tighten that down. Don't have to do it very tight because it will be hard to get off again, but you need it to be pushed down on there pretty good. Okay, I hear a whistle in the background. Okay, we'll get these others filled up and get them on out into the cooker outside. It's not really outside, it's out in the summer kitchen, what we call the summer kitchen. I made sure that my canner has plenty of water in it, so I'm going to get that onto the top of the stove and let it start warming and bring my jars out and put in there. I can put 7 quart jars in my canner at a time. Well, I forgot to put those other 2 pieces of chicken nugget in here, but they all seem pretty full. I don't think I really want to have any more in there and crowd things up. Next I have to get the lid on, and my canner's turned the wrong way, so I have to turn it around because there's a special notch right here that I have to line up with an arrow there, and then I can see the pressure gauge. Otherwise it would be facing the wrong way. Everything's pretty hot, so I've got to be careful. Well, that stove is quite hot right now, so it's gonna come to a boil fairly quickly, and then steam's gonna come out of this little spout right here, and that's called venting. You let that do it for 10 minutes, and then wherever this is the weight that I have to put on it, and after the 10 minutes is up that it's been doing the venting. Any meat you can in a quart takes 90 minutes. It doesn't matter whether you've mixed the meat with potatoes or carrots or onions or anything. It takes 90 minutes to can to process a quart of meat. And if you do it in pints, it takes 15 minutes less. So it takes an hour and 15 minutes to do that. Now, whenever you mix vegetables and meat together, it still always takes the most amount of time that it takes for any of the one product that goes in there. So meat is the longest of anything that I know about, and that's an hour and a half, which is 90 minutes. Okay, I can feel the heat and the steam coming out of there, so I'm going to start my timer for 10 minutes. Well, the amount of venting time is over, so I'm ready to put the weight on there, and then it has to build up enough pressure to get up to 10 pounds, and at that point I'll start counting 90 minutes. Well, time's up. Now I have to try to get this heavy thing down off of here. I slide it over to the corner, and then I just have to take it down to the ground. It's quite heavy, but I haven't had anything bad happen yet. And then with something as simple as a bag of frozen vegetables, some dehydrated onions, some chicken noodle soup seasoning, which is really good. This stuff is delicious with any kind of chicken soup. My jar of canned chicken nuggets and a quart of water. I can make a good amount of soup really quick. All I have to do is dump it in and heat it up real good, maybe cook it for like 10 minutes. Now the breading on the chicken nuggets acts as a thickener for the soup, so it's not real watery. It's a little thicker than just plain chicken broth and chicken. I'll add some water to the jar to kind of rinse it out. Dump in quite a bit of that because it has chicken broth plus a lot of different seasonings in it that really bring out the flavor, and then maybe a tablespoon or so of dried onions and my bag of vegetables. Hold on and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. In just 10 minutes, I have this nice, creamy, hearty soup that I can feed to several people, and they ought to be happy. You know, you never know, but hopefully they'd be happy. Some of the pieces are a little bit bigger, like this one, so they might need to be cut in half. But those pieces of chicken with the breading on them are actually kind of like dumplings in a way, but they also have tended to break apart. Okay, so that's a great lunch in about 10 minutes cooking time. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.